So good morning. How are you all? That's great to hear. It's a great response. Thank you very much. It's really great to be here, and very fortunate to be invited to such an illustrious group of people and such a great event. I understand that LinkedIn has been somewhat of a hot topic. Is that fair to say? It's come up in numerous conversations of the last week or so. So I'm here to answer all your questions, but to really give you a better overview of how you as business professionals can really start proactively leveraging the LinkedIn network to grow sales. Now, here at LinkedIn, our major reason for being is to transform the way the world works. So far, LinkedIn has been really revolutionized the way companies have been hiring talent, doing their talent acquisition. We have revolutionized the way companies have been marketing their products to their target audience. But where I come from the newest part of the LinkedIn business, which is LinkedIn Sales Solutions. And I've been working with this part of the business for a little over 2 years now. So on today's agenda, we want to show you exactly how you as business professionals can proactively leverage LinkedIn, but primarily show you how to start social selling. Now, the world of sales has completely changed. Old-fashioned ways of selling just are redundant, they're barbaric, and social media and indeed social networking are playing a much more important role in how companies are indeed selling. So I want to touch upon a couple of key points, just give you kind of a brief overview of the major social media outlets that are out there, but primarily focus on the big three, because I know we have we've different demographics in the room who would maybe be looking at the B2C space, other people here would look at the B2B space. So I want to give you a brief overview of the big three. Then we really want to get into the whole world of social selling. You know, why is social selling important? What is it exactly? From there, we'll go into LinkedIn, go into the service we provide here at LinkedIn, but really we want to show you how LinkedIn can work for you as business professionals to achieve your goals. So let's get straight into it. So where is LinkedIn today, and where does it fit in terms of how the communication has been evolving? Well, as you know, before the web, obviously print media was obviously the major outlet for more of a top-down type of communication, where the communication between the buyer and the seller was generated by the seller, and ultimately it was targeting the buyer. But with the whole advent of Web 1.0 and the whole move into Web 2.0, the whole top-down system of communication has been kind of turned on its head. We're in this area of Web 2.0, where we have the social media, social networking, where people are talking about your organization. People don't like to be talked to by an organization, from the seller to the buyer dynamic, but it's a complete turn on its head. The dynamic between the seller and the buyer has completely changed. So where does this leave you as a business? Well, with the advent of this whole area of Web 2.0, the various different social media outlets out there, you can communicate with a lot more customers, a lot more clients, in a vast way, in a very targeted way also, but a cheaper way to ultimately communicate with a wider audience. So there are various different social media outlets that people are using at the moment, but I just want to focus on the major three, because each of these three key social media outlets or social networks have distinct goals and differ quite drastically. So in terms of the big three, so first of all, we obviously have Facebook. Facebook is the social network. It's where people go to say who I am as an individual. It's very personal. So from the business space, it's very much suited to a company involved in the B2C space, where it's all about brand identification, where people can identify certain brands. With Twitter, Twitter is their voice. People can say what they like. People think of something and put a hashtag on it and share that. Twitter is kind of somewhat different to Facebook, because it's also very apt in terms of the B2C space, but also in the B2B space. But LinkedIn is the professional network. LinkedIn is the largest professional network in the world, made up of, and we'll give you the figures in just 1 second, but made up of almost 260 million professionals. Now, everything on your LinkedIn profile, it's all designed to help you to promote yourself as being that brand ambassador and indeed a thought leader in your area of expertise. So LinkedIn is the professional network, and as such, it is the perfect platform for people to really look at the B2B space in terms of their sales. So what is social selling, and why is it so important nowadays? Well, Fundamentally, the buying process has changed. Buyers now are much more tech savvy. They're engaging with one another, they're engaging with their peers on various different social media outlets and various different information sources. So from the seller's point of view, that dynamic has changed. They're dealing with a much more aware buying base. Now, this isn't just hearsay. Actually, research has been done by the likes of the Corporate Executive Board, who have done certain research to suggest that over 75% of buyers are actually influenced by social media. They know what's going on out there. They're talking to their peers. They're talking to their competitors. They're talking to their customers out there. So from the seller, it's much more difficult to ultimately engage with that key guy without going down the social media route. But because of this whole advent of Web 2.0, the whole access to information, from the selling point of view, it's much more difficult for a seller to convince that buyer to buy their products because they may have already made up their minds before a seller is even in touch with them. So 57% of buyers have already made the decision even before the salesperson gets in touch with that buyer. And as you know, I'm sure you're all aware, I'm sure you're sick to death of being cold called. But cold calling and traditional forms of selling, be it blanket marketing, blanket mailing, or indeed, someone on the phone to you every day, picking up the phone, interrupting your work, it's almost null and void now. It's somewhat of a barbaric form of selling, this whole area of cold calling. So as we see here from our research, 97% of cold calls just simply do not work. So this whole move towards a much more tech-savvy, a very socially aware, very socially empowered buyer with LinkedIn and with social selling, what we really want to achieve here in terms of social selling is that, first of all, the seller must understand that person's business much better than he did previously. He must understand what makes that individual tick, that buyer, and what makes him tick in terms of how he can actually make his decision to purchase your product. And ultimately, people will only deal with people that they trust. So we're going to show you how we can achieve these goals and show you how, with social selling, first of all, we can help you to find those key decision makers out there on the LinkedIn network to pinpoint the exact decision maker in that organization that you ultimately want to do business with, how you can relate to them, how you can understand their problems, understand them as individuals, and understand their company better, and ultimately engage with those key decision makers in a much more warmer and more meaningful manner as opposed to go down the cold route. And that's the task we've set ourselves out today. So LinkedIn, as I said, is the largest professional network in the world. It was actually founded by a gentleman called Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman was one of the first investors in PayPal, along with Elon Musk, and one of the first investors into Facebook, along with Peter Thiel. He put his success down to not the books he read or the lectures he attended in Harvard, but rather the network that he built around him. And it was because of the network he built around him is because he's so successful today. And this is where the idea of LinkedIn has ultimately come from. So we're by far the world's largest professional network in the world. We have offices right across the world. I myself work in our Dublin office where we employ over 450 people. We have various different product streams here at LinkedIn. We have our talent solutions products that help organizations to do the recruitment, to do their headhunting, which is by far the largest part of the LinkedIn business. We have marketing solutions, which help an organization to brand themselves better and to target those guys, which is much more of a push strategy in terms of, it's much more a pull strategy in helping an organization to start branding themselves better, create brand awareness on the LinkedIn network itself. But where I'm coming from is LinkedIn Sales Solutions, which is much more of a push strategy to help the salesperson to find, to relate, and to engage with the key decision makers out there. So the mission of LinkedIn is to ultimately make all the world's professionals more productive and successful. Our core goal here at LinkedIn Sales Solutions is to make salespeople more productive and successful in their sales approach. So just some facts and figures for you before we get into that. So LinkedIn, as I said, we have almost 260 million professionals globally. I joined LinkedIn about 2 years ago. When I first joined the company, we had about 120 million professionals globally. 2 years later, we have almost 260. So we're seeing rapid growth, and we're growing at a rate of 3 new profiles every single second. In the EMEA region, which is, we have a lot of people here working in this area, we have over 50 million professionals. And we actually had a big week in Ireland last week. Ireland, we have a population of 4 million, but we actually just hit the 1 million member mark. So that was a big achievement for LinkedIn in the Irish market. So amongst those 259 million professionals, be it for marketing solutions, talent solutions, or indeed sales solutions, we give companies the ability to find that needle in a haystack. We help an organization to hire, to market, and to sell. And we want to find that key person that you want to market to hire, or to sell to on the network itself. So we're trying to find that key person out there. An example of how an organization has successfully leveraged LinkedIn was Cathay Pacific, very large airline. And I want to just touch upon this because I think it's quite relevant to a lot of people in the room today. With Cathay Pacific, they have used various different media channels, various different ways of marketing their products, but they recently brought out a whole new business class cabin that they wanted to, that they brought to market, and they wanted to target the key guys that would ultimately be sitting or lying in their business class cabins. They used various different channels that weren't working for them, but they came to LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn, like that needle in a haystack, we were able to find those key people that they ultimately wanted to target their products to. So with this, Cathay came to us, and because they wanted to focus on the American market, they came to LinkedIn and they wanted to target the key guys who will be traveling to Asia. They wanted to, all these new services were on the US to Asia route. They came to LinkedIn, they said, we want to target key guys in the New York region. LinkedIn went back to them and said, okay, we have 6 million people in the greater New York area. So, do you want to target all the 6 million people? Of course not. 6 million people, they won't sit in those seats. We only want to target key organizations who are doing business in Asia. We want to target within those organizations the key decision makers. We want to target people of a certain seniority level, the people who will be doing their business travel. But also, we want to target the guys who are actually connected to people in Asia and who are part of groups on LinkedIn who ultimately will be more likely to fly a business class to Asia. So we've put together a very successful campaign for Cathay Pacific. They were able to target those, to pinpoint those key guys who will be sitting on their seats. But that's just one way where someone has leveraged LinkedIn to grow their business. That's from a marketing point of view, but we're going to show you how you as professionals can start leveraging LinkedIn from a sales perspective. So we're going to double click on each of these points here. First of all, how you can build up your profile to help you to engage more so with those key decision makers out there on the network itself. We're going to show you why it's very necessary to develop your network on LinkedIn to help grow your network and ultimately start reaching out to those individuals who are out there on the network itself. We want to show you how you can gather insight and why it's very important from a sales perspective to gather that insight on those key decision makers or in these companies you wish to do business with. But also, we want to show you how you can offer insight. So you are brand ambassadors for your organization. You are the thought leaders in your area of expertise. You want to start targeting people and showcasing yourselves as being those brand ambassadors and thought leaders. We're going to show you how you can do that. And ultimately, we'll finish up on certain LinkedIn sales solutions and show you exactly how we can find, to relate, and engage with those key decision makers out there using our LinkedIn solutions. So first of all, before we get into the actual profile itself, your profile on LinkedIn is your internet real estate. Now, there's kind of a myth out there that it's your online resume. It's not. It's your real estate. You own that. For whatever reason, you have a LinkedIn profile. But from a sales perspective, this is where you showcase yourselves as being, that professional who ultimately someone can trust, and you can showcase yourself as being that highly credible individual. So on your LinkedIn profile, everything there should show you how you can showcase your know factor, your likability factor, and ultimately your trust factor, which ultimately leads to a high level of credibility and ultimately someone who wishes to do business with you. So when you're building out your personal profile, you should think of all the things that you have done in your professional capacity that would be of interest to those key decision makers out there on the network itself. So by completing your whole LinkedIn profile, by putting up your headline summary, various bits of skills and expertise and whatnot. It's all targeting those key decision makers out there on the network itself. Now, LinkedIn, we have actually recently just purchased the organization. We've bought the organization SlideShare to help our members to showcase themselves as professionals on LinkedIn. This is where you can put up full presentations, videos, anything you want that's engaging with those key decision makers that you want to do business with, that help them to trust you as an individual, that they will ultimately want to do business with you. And also listing out your skills and expertise is very important, but also getting endorsements by your colleagues, but also endorsements and recommendations by clients as well. Ultimately, when you start leveraging LinkedIn in a much more proactive sense, the more people come back to visit your profile. So you should ultimately be engaging with more people who are coming back to visit your own LinkedIn profiles. So developing your own personal network is very important. Because with LinkedIn, from a free standpoint, you have full visibility to your second-degree connections. I'm connected to Peter. I would have access to Peter's connections out there on the network. So it's very important when you're trying to reach out to people, you want to have in the back of your mind, who are they connected to? Perhaps they're connected to that key decision maker in an organization I want to do business with. So even amongst your colleagues, you should certainly be connected, or you should be looking at who within your organization are connected to maybe key decision makers and companies you wish to do business with. You want to get a clearer sense of how your company is related to or connected to key decision makers in organizations that you ultimately want to do business with. So you should be leveraging your colleagues' connections, your co-workers' connections to find those leads out there. Just as an example of this, I want to take the VP of Sales for LinkedIn, Mike Gamson. So Mike Gamson, when he first joined LinkedIn, he was connected to one individual on the network itself, Jonathan Lister. When he came into this role, he obviously connected to all the various different senior decision makers at LinkedIn, the VPs and the director level individuals. You see Jeff Weiner on the right-hand side of your screen, who's the CEO. Now, all those individuals would have obviously shared some certain connections out there. But because that they are now all connected to one another, Mike's connections, his connection base just increased dramatically. So Mike, by connecting just to those few individuals, it opened up hundreds of thousands of connections out there that he can ultimately leverage and proactively target these guys through warm instructions that will be made by their colleagues. Gathering intelligence is very important. Before any meeting, it's very important to understand who that prospect is, who that key individual is, so you can understand what makes him tick. So before you reach out to someone, find out who that key person is, but ultimately find out exactly, what they've done and how you as professionals working for your organization, how you can help achieve their goals. But also, following companies is very important. You want to understand when when an organization updates something, whether a new product launch, whatever it may be. From a sales point of view, this is very important because you can understand that prospect better, but also that prospect's organization. All great stuff to leverage when you're ultimately making that communication. But obviously you're thought leaders in your area of expertise. You are experts in your industry. Now LinkedIn, with our aggregated news feeds, we can give you that up-to-date, accurate information on what's going on in your particular industry that helps you to be that thought leader in your area of expertise. But also, you're gathering insight, but you're also contributing it. And this is very important. If I go back to the credibility slide, you're showing your know factor, you're showing your likability factor here, but ultimately your trust factor as well. Because once you contribute insight, it's obviously seen by your expanded network on LinkedIn, which are ultimately key decision makers in companies you wish to do business with. They're seeing that you know what you're saying, you're branding yourself right, and you are indeed engaging with them. But also, certainly join groups. Now, with LinkedIn, when LinkedIn first started, maybe the first 1 million people that LinkedIn had, LinkedIn wasn't quite sure where it was as a platform, it has to be said, perfectly honest. But until the group functionality came about, where people could ultimately start targeting and communicating with people in their industry, this exactly what the tool was for, to help people to ultimately engage with people within their industry. So we always say, join many groups. You can join up to 50 groups at any one time, participate in a few, and run one. Anybody can run a group, and you can start engaging with people out there in that area, your area of expertise. So finally, we finish up on our LinkedIn solutions. So LinkedIn, as I said, we developed various different corporate solutions. One of our solutions is our sales solution. So we want to answer 3 key questions for all sales professionals who want to leverage our LinkedIn sales solutions. First of all, we want to give you the tools that you can pinpoint. You can find that needle in a haystack where you can target that key decision maker in that organization that you wish to do business with. We want to show you how you can ultimately engage with that individual in a much more warmer and more meaningful sense by leveraging that great information on the person's profile and leading the conversation with insight. And ultimately, engaging with that person through warm introductions that can be made through the network itself. So this is social selling. This is what it's all about. We're showing you how to find the key decision makers, to relate, and to engage with those key guys. So let's look at the who. Obviously, with LinkedIn, we can give you the ability to target those key guys in that specific vertical or specific organization that you want to do business with. So we give you the ability to navigate through the entire LinkedIn network and build up a full list of leads of all those decision makers out there. So we're finding the who. Now, in order to answer the final question, which is the how, I wanted just to target one organization. I think maybe some people are in the audience here, Autotrader.com. Now, at this current moment in time, if I wanted to target from a sales point of view, if I wanted to target this organization, this moment in time, I have 0 connections in Autotrader.com. I know nobody there, okay? But with LinkedIn, I can see that within my own personal network that I have here on LinkedIn, I see that 4 people can make introductions to people that they know. My connections are connected to 4 people within Autotrader.com. But with our LinkedIn sales solutions, these tools will pull together your company's connections to help leverage people within your sales team's connections. So with this tool, if I was to use LinkedIn sales solutions, I could ultimately have 59 meetings potentially, because some of my colleagues are connected to 59 people within Autotrader.com. I could simply ask for an introduction to my colleagues to ultimately allow me to engage in that much warmer and more meaningful manner. This is the evolution of sales, and this is what social selling is all about. So just to recap, social selling, what it's all about, this is actually what it would look like. The first tool is the lead builder tool that actually helps you as a sales professional to navigate through LinkedIn to be able to find those key decision makers and build a full list of leads of all those key guys. We give you full access to your third-degree network that ultimately you can find all that great information on all those key individuals out there that you ultimately want to do business with, but also we give you the ability to start leveraging your colleagues' connections and leverage these into warm introductions and engage with those key decision makers in a much warmer and more meaningful manner. Thanks.